Traders, especially those doing business in Rwanda, continue registering losses following the border closure that has left many with no alternative market and asking for compensation. Trade Minister Amelia Chambade implores traders to think of alternative markets where they can export their goods other than hanging onto the Rwanda market.
So if you lost, we don't want to end up like when people lost in Sudan, they cried, up to today they are crying that they want to be paid. Then don't bother going there because they've already started telling me, I was taking my lorry to Rwanda, government has to pay me. I say, no, wait, government to pay you? I have told you go to DRC, go to another country, TZ, go to all this, Zambia, all these countries are there, free trade zone, a market for you.
The border closure since February this year has caused a drastic fall in Uganda's export revenue by almost 80%.
Now we have challenges with Rwanda at the moment. It's very unfortunate. And it has impacted very negatively on our economy. We'll come up with the figures.
As a key instrument to strengthening Uganda's economy, regional integration is being sought as the only solution to removing barriers that are locking some traders out of business.
We are doing skilling under MTAC, Management Training Advisory Council, a number of organizations. But we are not coordinated. Pam, make sure that all these organizations that are skilling should come together, synergies. Because you find skilling in oil and gas, skilling in MTAC, skilling in but
by the National Planning Authority, and it provides us a space where NPA, together with key stakeholders, private sector, civil society, government, the UN family, dialogue on crucial elements of national development. And I'm glad today we were able to talk about value addition in the context of inclusive growth. And here we talked about the relevance of manufacturing, regional trade, agriculture, SMEs, financing. And the idea is to have integrated approaches to these things and also develop value chain approaches to them.
During the United Nations Development Programme consultative meeting in Kampala, the minister also discouraged indigenous farming methods, urging farmers to embrace mechanized agriculture for increased production.
We should be talking about mechanized agriculture. I know we have to work on the mindset of the people. Of course, at one time, government introduced tractors at every district. But now the question was, who's buying government at Yambe? That is now the syndrome.
A number of Ugandan farmers are still using rudimentary tools, which has affected production and thus the volume of exports. Elijah Turiagbanawi, NBS, live at 9.
Structural issues along the agricultural value addition agenda should be eliminated over the next 5 years, says the Food and Agricultural Organization.
We have to look at institutional governance and the role that MAIF plays in terms of leading the agriculture sector the way forward. We have to look in terms of supply management chain. A lot of inputs that comes to the agriculture sector here in Uganda are counterfeited. This is counterproducent for the agriculture sector.
Private sector financiers also report that processing of products requires realignments.
Sometimes you go on value addition, but you're not looking at what are you adding value, how are you going to store, market, etc. So it's cross-cutting issues across the entire value chain that need to be looked at for us to arrive at sustainable value addition.
A discourse on enhancing value addition for inclusive growth in Uganda urges on the need for capital consolidation.
So that we can support organizations that are capital intensive, so that we can, we can partner with the private sector that would like to invest in capital-intensive projects.
The UNDP is supporting the National Development Plan 3 policy discussions ahead of execution during the year 2020-2025.
It's a fantastic opportunity for us to really design a process that is all-inclusive, that addresses issues of sustainable development goals, issues of agriculture, issues of manufacturing, regional trade.
Reina Ojon, NTV Business.
we are in agreement.
The third NDP Breakfast Policy Series saw experts gather in Kampala to discuss how to improve democratic governance and service delivery. The participants proposed the reduction of the size of parliament, decentralization, enhancing local government budgets, improving quality of legislation, efficient utilization of resources, transparency and uniformity in taxation, among others. Experts want planners to use local structures to bridge the gap in service delivery.
The only thing which is near the population is decentralization, because it has an infrastructure starting from the village. So thirdly, I would like to see the issue of planning at the parish come up. Decentralization is already ahead, because at the parish we have a parish council and we have a parish chief.
The leader of opposition in parliament, Betty Awol Ochan, wants the next plan to focus on electoral reforms and political transition.
How can NDP3 help us to stop commercialization of politics, of election? Even then, the Electoral Commission is not independent. We say independent electoral commission. Shit. We struggle in parliament so much about constitutional review commission instead of bringing this removal of, age limit, those kind of things. Those were, I thought, were the safety valves for us to transit to the next president without what? Without war.
So all these allegations and clamour that the Electoral Commission is not independent are not founded. In law, there is a cardinal saying that he who asserts the existence of something must prove the existence of that fact.
The Director of Development Planning, National Planning Authority, Dr. Asuman Globa, says they were committed to using the views raised to develop NDP3, which must be finalized before the budget process begins in September. However, the United Nations Development Programme cited challenges in implementation.
Some of the gaps that were identified, and I think that moving forward, the idea would be that in NDP3, whatever we put in the plan is implemented fully.
The National Planning Authority rates NDP2 60% successful, but faults it on poverty eradication, with figures showing a 1% rise from 90% in NDP1 report, which the authority attributes to drought that affected the agriculture sector. Edward Muhumza, NTV Tonight.
We said the share of national budget to districts should be 30%. It hasn't gone beyond above 15%. We've started decentralization. Instead of empowering more districts to do their job, we are now decentralizing. We have more projects at national level being implemented at the district level. Yet, if this project was at district level, district would have got enough capacity to be able to do that. And lastly is enhancing local government revenue mobilization.
How do you increase performance with an ever-increasing size of parliament? I also recommended at that time, when members of parliament were below 200 members, that parliament should be cut down. What has happened since that time? How do you really increase performance when you would like to work with the entire population of Uganda?
How can NDP3 help us to stop commercialization of politics, of election? Even then, the Electoral Commission is not independent. We say independent electoral commission. Shit. We are all here, very enlightened people, but we don't want to put these people to task. That is not independent electoral commission. We struggle in parliament so much about constitutional review commission instead of bringing this removal of age limit, those kind of things. Those were, I thought, were the safety valves for us to transit to the next president without what? Without war. They removed all the safety valves.
So all these allegations and clamour that the Electoral Commission is not independent are not founded. In law, there is a cardinal saying that he who asserts the existence of something must prove the existence of that fact. Can they table before us evidence that shows or proves that this commission can never be independent or is not independent? There is none.
According to World Bank statistics, Uganda possesses one of the youngest populations in the world, with over 78% below 30 years, which presents both a challenge and an opportunity for development. As the country drafts NDP 3, stakeholders want the plan to enable young people engage in democracy, development and peace building, among others.
We need to have a generation of young people who feels included, who feels they belong, who are the legitimate owners of the future. And government has to understand that without the young people, without the young generation, you can't claim development. So,
government has been tasked to make policies and services appropriate for the youth, building young people's abilities to meet their own subsistence needs.
The government should look more into the mainstream academic or educational line and then, enable locally relevant skills. We have so many people who are unemployed. The question is, are they not part of development?
Today was the fourth NDP 3 Breakfast Policy Series that focused on cross-cutting issues including climate change, gender inequality, women empowerment, and governance, among others.
It's a matter of each sector identifying the risks and opportunities that exist on the climate change arena. It needs to be captured quite very well within the national development plan.
It's important that NDP works alongside with organizations that are working with families.
Now, one of the reasons as to why NDP2 did not meet its set targets was because of the issue of implementation. Some stakeholders think that some of the issues that were raised here were the ones that were raised last year during the planning process of NDP2. And therefore, as we look forward to NDP3, stakeholders should look at the implementation aspect of it.
Uganda's National Development Plan 2 will expire in June 2020, with the draft of National Development Plan 3 expected to place it to be ready by September 2019.
What we are suggesting in NDP 3 is a program-based approach, approach that will enable different units of government to work together and ensure that we are more efficient in the way we implement.
Well, I think it's a new beginning in many ways. Let's not forget that now we are also in the era of sustainable development goals. I think what is important is that we have learned lessons and we can integrate them into the NDP 3. The vision of NPA is to be able to draw those lessons and make sure that whatever we can be able to promote and support in NDP 3 is done.
The NDP 3 will be the third in a series of 6 5-year plans aimed at achieving Uganda Vision 2040, which envisions a transformed Ugandan society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country with sustainable wealth creation, employment, and inclusive growth. Dennis Woniara, NBS, Live at 9.
Give us some practical proposals. We must de-risk agriculture. How do you de-risk agriculture? You must have insurance for agriculture. The majority of us who are so-called middle income can finance our own agriculture. But our biggest problem is that when I get a shock, a weather shock, my money is lost. So the critical thing for Uganda right now is insurance for some of us who are investing in agriculture. For the peasants, is financing. And unfortunately, microfinance has not worked for them. The bottom line, that is too expensive. So this is where we need the UDBs of this world to change their way of work, to help agriculture, to, the difference between UDB, Uganda Development Bank, and a commercial bank is that UDB should be able to take a non-bankable project and make it bankable. And agriculture is the area. The same with the youth. We cannot continue giving the youth money without helping them to structure their projects. Because when we give them money, we are just passing on debt to them. We have social development projects. Is it a borrowing? Social development projects are not for borrowing. It's money we give you and you can return. But the bottom line is, if you give me money when I don't understand what I'm going to do, becomes a problem. So the solution now is in helping people understand what they are going to do and in following them. And then we should stop grouping them. There is no way 10 people can own one cow.
Stakeholders highlighted key sectors like agriculture, health, education and manufacturing, as opposed to infrastructure which are capable of improving incomes at household level in the forthcoming Third National Development Plan.
Then shifted to plans that were based on dealing with the fundamentals, which is infrastructure. Now time has come for us to deal with a financing framework that can help improve household income.
The need for the NDP3 to be people-centered. We need to focus on people at the end of the day. But what is also emerging is on the need for prioritization. We can't do everything. We need to focus on a few things and do them properly.
To attain this, a number of strategies have to be considered, including good governance, human capital development, value addition, among others.
The issue of not allocating finances to the critical sectors of the economy is actually not a problem, according to some stakeholders who think that these sectors need to do a lot of implementation and accountability for the funds they are given.
This is a country where we have had local governments and other accounting officers return money at the end of the financial year.
The issue of finance, yes, it might be exist, but there are issues of greater importance than financing. And that is the issue of the capacity of the institution to deliver.
Meanwhile, National Planning Authority has urged non-government organizations to have their activities aligned with NDP goals.
If a CSO is operating in this country and an NGO, whatever you do must be in the national plan.
We need to change the attitude we have about non-government organizations. Put into consideration the needs and the concerns of civil society organizations that help them to do their work and do it effectively.
Today was the 5th NDP3 Breakfast Policy Series, where stakeholders came together to deliberate and inform the formation of NDP3. National Development Plan 3 should be in place by September 2019 to guide the budget strategy for the financial year 2020-2021. Dennis Woniala, NBS, Live at 9.
Now, Uganda's current second National Development Plan, NDP2, expires at the end of June 2020. And the third National Development Plan, that will be 3, should be in place by September 2019 to guide the budget strategy for the financial year 2020 and 2021. Now, as part of the efforts to inform the formulation of the third National Development Plan, the United Nations Development Programme, in partnership, of course, with the National Planning Authority, have organized a weekly breakfast policy series between July and August 2019. Each meeting will be shaped by an issue note articulating strategic issues relevant to the NDP3 process, and an outcome document submitted to the NDP3 drafting team for consideration. Joining me tonight is the chairperson of the National Planning Authority, Professor Pamela Mbabasi. It's an honor to have you tonight.
Thank you.
I'll start with the simplest thing. Uganda is soon concluding on the implementation of the second National Development Plan. And what lessons have we learned in NDP1 and NDP2, the implementation, and how are these lessons informing the strategies of NDP3?
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers. The National Planning Authority is spearheading the formulation of the National Development Plan 3. Okay. And in our process of formulation of this plan, we've had to undertake a mid-term review of the past concluding National Development Plan 2, but also the end of term review of National Development Plan 1, but we've also undertaken some diagnostic studies of different sectors and reviewed a number of documents, both in government but also from development partners. And these have taught us 3 key lessons that I'd like to highlight. One is the misalignment between planning and budgeting. And this, we also have learned the second lesson, which is essentially that we do plan very well, but we fail to implement. And this is largely because of the silo approach in government that does not allow the coordination between sectors. And the third lesson that we have learned is that there has been previously a withdrawal of the state from largely the productive sectors. And this is also manifest. It's well manifested in the progress that we seem to have seen in more the social social quality of life indicators, which seem to have improved over the recent past.
Okay.
And when you get to the productive, the growth and income indicators, you see that there's been a reverse. In cases, say, poverty has gone up in the country.
Yeah.
There's a more increase in income inequality. And these three key lessons are informing what is prioritizing, or what we are prioritizing in National Development Plan 3. And some of the new innovative areas that we are proposing in NDP 3 is the program approach to planning, which is going to ensure that different parts or different sectors of government work together, and the different stakeholders, including our development partners, to address the key challenges we're facing as a country and come together to see how these can be addressed. But also, particularly, we are suggesting an enhanced role of the state, because previously you see that the state has withdrawn mainly from investment in the productive sectors, and we're saying the state needs to come back, particularly in sectors like the banking industry, which has witnessed a massive increase in inclusion in interest rates, averaging to about 23. We've seen also industry, for instance, where much of investments are in processing as opposed to manufacturing, and we're saying government needs to come in. No country the world over has been able to transform and grow, particularly in the industrial sector, without investing in iron and steel. We have deposits in Muko. We would like to see that the state comes in to propel progress in there. And we feel that this will, the increase in investment, particularly in improving our industrial sector, will require our development of industrial parks. You see much of the industry is concentrated, for instance, in Kampala. We would like to see them across the country. So we're saying the state needs to come back and really direct some of the affairs in the state.
Well, there you go. Professor, just to take me a little bit, you've explained the innovation issues. I actually am astounded about that. It means we're actually on a progressive scale.
Correct.
Could you please explain more about the proposed parish model implementation approach in NDP 3?
Right. So in the parish model, parish model really enables government to come closer to the people. What we are suggesting is that the government should focus on the parish as the planning and logistical hub for providing direct support to households in terms of agriculture inputs, post-harvest handling and storage, as well as financial services, administration and planning. The Ministry of Local Government has completed recruitment of parish chiefs who will be the focal persons at this level to oversee government programs. So we're saying come down from the district and let's approach and help households and communities, because the focus is really about increasing household incomes and welfare of the average Ugandan. So we want government to be felt at the parish level.
I understand. Because of time, how are we going to fund this, the financing question? How are we going to fund the NDP 3?
I think there are several strategies we're coming out with. One is to be more efficient with the way we utilize the funding we have. The program-based approach is going to help us coordinate better as government, but also promoting foreign direct investments. Reducing the cost of doing business in this country is going to go a long way in attracting funding. We're also suggesting we need to align our plan to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals to enable us access funding, climate change funding that is available out there. We're also saying government needs to develop our capital markets to mobilize more funding. We also want to use blended financing so that we can do more of PPPs, use mixed equity, maybe with loans. De-risking agriculture is also one way that we can then enable credit to be accessed, but also introducing diasporic bonds to enable Ugandans in the diaspora to also participate in the development of our country.
Well, that seems much more exciting. Professor Pamela, your last word on this, because I understand these breakfast meetings are still ongoing.
Yes.
What could be your last word tonight?
Before I give my last word, I would like to thank the UNDP, but also our different development partners that have stepped in to help us ensure that we consult Ugandans. And Ugandans have been very responsive. They're telling us what they would like to see as part of the key priorities in our NDP3. And we've been able to articulate that the key goal of our National Development Plan 3 will be increasing incomes, competitiveness and employment, particularly for our young people. And we hope that we will be able to tell government and ensure that we break down silos and work together. Because unless we work together as a country, we want every Ugandan to feel a part and parcel of this Development Plan 3. We want to intensify, we were calling for intensifying efforts to fight corruption, and we also want to ensure that everybody is part of the implementation of this plan. We want civil society, we want the private sector, we want our development partners, we want every average Ugandan to be a part of this. And this is why we've gone an extra mile to really engage and get that and ensure that everybody's part and parcel of this thinking process. So I'm calling upon us all as Ugandans to really feel more encouraged. Our goal is about transforming our society so that by 2040 we can have our middle income country of a GDP per capita that is 9,600, and I'm sure we can do it. It is a huge goal that we are setting ourselves, but we can achieve it. But we need to work together, break down the silos, and ensure that we really move together in the right direction.
Oh, there you have it. That is Professor Pamela Mbabazi, the chairperson, National Planning Authority, Uganda. Well, you and I need to be a part of this from the grassroots level to the national level.